Recording in progress.
Okay, good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this council meeting to order. Welcome. Thank you for coming. Nice to have people in our council chambers on such a special night. I'm going to ask disclosure of pecuniary interest. Anyone have anything under that file? Speak now. Going to report out of closed. We have a motion moved by Councillor Dirksen, second by Deputy Mayor Anderson. The council receives the confidential closed session reports regarding proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land and third-party information supplied in confidence to the municipality as information. Further, that the council approves the confidential direction given to staff. All in favor of the motion? Carried, thank you. We have a motion moved by Councillor Potnovich, seconded by Councillor Zimmerman, the minutes of the town of Minto, June 2nd, 2026, closed June 2nd, 2026, closed session meeting, and June 2nd, 2026, regular council meeting be approved. All in favor of that motion? It's carried, thank you. We have a motion by Deputy Mayor Anderson, second by Councillor Elliott, that the town of Minto Council convenes into committee of the whole. All in favor of the motion? Thank you, that's carried. We have no public meetings this evening, but we do have a delegation. Tonight we're presenting a Senior of the Year award. So I will present the award, but I have a couple of things to read out here, if you don't mind. It's a long document, so relax. So good evening, everyone. It is my honor to recognize a truly exceptional member of the town of Minto. Mrs. Trish Palmer has given countless hours in service to others, whether through Meals on Wheels, driving friends and neighbors to medical appointments, supporting youth as scout leader, membership coordinator for the Clifford and District Horticultural Society, or her many contributions to organizations across our community. Trish has been a driving force behind the Clifford Rotary Club, and it's fair to say it would not be what it is today without her dedication. She leads by example, quietly stepping up wherever there is a need and never asking for recognition in return. Her generosity of time and spirit has touched countless lives and strengthened the fabric of our community. Trish is someone people can always count on, reliable, compassionate, and deeply committed to helping others. She brings people together, lifts others up, and inspires those around her to give back. Her actions reflect the very best of what it means to be a community volunteer. Even in her spare time, she continues to check in on seniors, ensuring they are safe, supported, and never alone. Trish leads with kindness, humility, and a genuine care of others. Not all angels have wings, and tonight we recognize one of ours. Please join me in congratulating Mrs. Trish Palmer, our 2026 Senior of the Year. Good. Trish, if you don't mind stepping up to the front here, please. '26 Senior of the Year. What do you think of that? I'm sure you're pleased. So this is turn around, quick picture. So this is 2026 Senior of the Year award. Presented to Trish Palmer. You guys okay? Yep. Trish Palmer by the municipality of the town of Minto in recognition of your outstanding contributions after age 65. It strengthens and protects our communities. This is from the Honorable Minister of Seniors and Accessibilities, the Honorable Peter Dumont, who's our Lieutenant Governor. say how proud we are that you're in our community and all the fine stuff you do for people and the town of Minto. Clifford likely anyway, but I know that you're a busy person and you look after your husband and your family, and I know that that's likely a big task. You never told me that. But I have been to your place for coffee and donuts. And so I'm going to grab the mic for you if you want to mind saying a few words. So we don't have an hour. No.
Well, thank you, Mayor Turton and members of council and staff, Minto staff, and people that know me here. It truly is an honor to be selected as the Minto Senior of the Year. Totally unexpected, but I mean, when we moved here 15 years ago, we said we were going to get involved with community. And yes, I think we have. And, you know, but the work that I do in the community wouldn't mean much if I didn't have the help of many, many volunteers. And whether I've been leading it or just one of the pack, it's all been very rewarding, and I'm just very glad that we moved to this community. It's a wonderful community to be part of.
I've heard people say that you're a drill sergeant.
Oh.
But I have been involved in the Clifford Truck Show, in the booth, and I don't see that. See you a very organized person. Yes, so I take that back. Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Me?
And if you guys want to stay, yeah. If you don't, now's the perfect time to leave. Not kicking you out.
Riveting financial statements.
Yeah. I can hardly wait.
Okay, so I'm going to pass the chair to Councillor Dirksen.
Thank you, Mayor Turton. Pretty sure if you would have told them the financial statements were next on the agenda, they might have stayed, because I'm sure the.
That's exciting.
Yeah. Pretty riveting. Mhm. So, so I'll call on Treasurer Duff and Murray Short of our RLB. I'm not sure which order you're doing things in or what's happening here.
Thank you, Chair Dirksen. I
Thank
think
you.
we'll have Murray do his presentation, and then I have a brief report about some highlights and formally adopting the statement. So there you go. Oops.
Okay, great. Nothing clears out a room like an accountant getting up to speed. So not surprised that they left. I won't take it personally. So thanks very much for the opportunity to present the 2025 financial statements for the town of Milton. As we have in the past, we will walk through the PowerPoint presentation that you see the first slide of on screen. That presentation does cover the primary statements as well as the graphs that we typically presented at this meeting in years past. But if there are questions on the rest of the statements that were included in council package, I'm happy to address those as well. So with that said, you can see on screen the agenda here, just a bit of information about kind of our audit process and our planning, then the audit report, financial statements and graphs, as mentioned, and next steps. So next slide, please. So just in terms of overview of our audit, our materiality and the planning elements that were communicated to council last fall were unchanged. So as council will be aware, we did provide our regular audit planning letter that was provided for information to council back in the fall, as we do every year, and no changes arising from the audit from what was communicated at that time. No challenges in terms of the conduct of our audit, no issues with kind of working with management and team in order to get to this point. So thank you very much to them. And the adjusting entries and so on that we've listed on the slide, just pretty standard things in terms of kind of getting numbers presented so that they kind of flow to the financial statements correctly. So nothing to significantly communicate there. The next slide just gives a couple of bullets on our audit report. The audit report itself is a 2-page long document at the start of the financial statements that's ultimately the kind of end result of our work. It highlights kind of that it is a clean audit opinion, first and foremost. That's the most important thing for today's discussion, as well as information on the responsibilities of management, council, and our responsibility as your auditors. But as I said, most importantly for today's discussion is the clean audit opinion, which is covered in the first bullet, that the financial statements are presented fairly in accordance with Canadian public sector accounting standards. And then just confirming that our audit was conducted in accordance with the applicable auditing standards required for public accountants in Canada. The next slide just gives some information on the statement of financial position in the business world. This would be your balance sheet, showing the assets, liabilities, and overall accumulated surplus for the municipality. And if we jump to the next slide, the numbers are going to be very small, so hopefully people can see them on their screen. Oh, there we go, zooming in, excellent. And so just a few comments here. If we look at cash and investments together, they are about 18.4 million at the end of 2025 versus about 17.5 million at the end of the prior year, so an increase of almost $1 million. That's coming as a result of a strengthening of the municipality's financial position overall. You can see that in the net financial asset line, about 2/3 of the way down. Net financial assets are the financial assets minus the financial liabilities, those being on a net basis about 11 million, up from about 9 million the year before. So basically that's coming about as a result of a bit less spent on capital asset additions in the year, and more kind of set aside for reserves. You can see the tangible capital assets in the non-financial assets section down somewhat this year. So as I said, a bit less spent on capital asset purchases. So amortization brought that balance down somewhat. The rest of the financial assets generally fairly consistent. We do see an increase in taxes receivable, but a decrease in other accounts receivable just because of timing of collections. We'll have graphs on the taxes receivable in particular, but they're in a very strong position despite the increase this year. Other assets include the loan to North Wellington Healthcare Corporation that's down just because of the repayment in the year. Your investment in long-term investments is your investment in West Ontario Power. And then in the liabilities, generally kind of usual fluctuations that we'd expect to see. So a decrease of about $1 million in accounts payable just because of timing of payments going out the door, and less capital outstanding at the end of this year versus last. And then deferred revenue, the obligatory reserve funds line, that balance is up basically because of some Ontario infrastructure funding that has increased this year and unspent at the end of the year. And we'll see that in a future slide as well. Down at the bottom, we have the accumulated surplus up to about 101 million from 99 million the year before. So that's as a result of the surplus on the year. But most of that, as is the case with any municipality, is invested in your infrastructure. And we'll see that on a future slide as well. The next slide shows cash equivalents as a percentage of total annual cash outflow. So all the money that leaves the municipality from payments for expenses, capital asset additions, debt repayments, and all those sorts of things, those are all cash outflows. Your cash position as compared to those is about 99%. So basically you have enough cash on hand at the end of the year to cover a full year's worth of cash outflows. Most of that cash is in your reserves and reserve funds. So it's not cash that you're going to spend all within the year. It's just kind of a basis of comparison. And that amount you can see is slightly above the average of other municipalities. The green line is the town of Minto. The blue line is the average of other municipalities. Generally, you're kind of in the same, typically in the same kind of trend line. This year, slightly above the average of our other municipal clients. The next slide is the one showing taxes receivable. And this is where I mentioned that the town is in really strong shape in terms of its collections on taxes receivable relative to other municipalities. This is showing taxes receivable, so the outstanding taxes to be collected by the municipality relative to all the taxes that the municipality collects, so both for its own purposes as well as for the county and school boards. And it's only about 5% of the total, which is quite low and certainly much lower than the average of our other clients, which is about 10.1%. The Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing would consider anything less than 10% to be low risk. Getting above 10, it gets into the kind of low to mid range, but you're at 5.3%. And so that is really a commendable position to be in. You do see the trend line increasing over the last couple of years, but that's consistent with what we're seeing across most of our municipal clients. Has tended to be, even over the last 4 or 5 years, a kind of a fairly steady increase. For whatever reason, it just seems to be that tax receivables seem to be creeping up across most municipal government organizations. The next slide is long-term debt as a percentage of total tax revenue. So for some of these slides, we're comparing to total tax revenue just to kind of normalize for the size of different municipalities. And so your long-term debt as a percentage of total tax revenue, I guess, is kind of an indication of, with your tax revenue, your ability to kind of repay that debt. But again, it's normalized for different sizes of municipalities. Your debt is higher on average than other municipalities, but we will talk about kind of reserves and reserve funds that are in a quite a bit stronger position than other municipalities. So you've used debt reasonably to fund some capital purchases or construction projects in the year. Not a concern, and you can see that green trend line is declining steadily over the years. And so you're making the payments. It's not a concern. It's just that you do tend to have more debt than some of our other municipalities. But I would suggest that some of them maybe would have been well advised to use a bit of debt to stay on top of some of their infrastructure needs. So this isn't a comment or a judgment on your use of debt at all. And as I said, it's been quite reasonable from our standpoint. The next slide shows capital asset additions, and this kind of highlights maybe part of the reason that you do carry a bit more debt is because you do tend to spend more on capital asset additions, some of your infrastructure needs, than other municipalities. You can see the green line is above the blue one in 4 out of the 5 years. And so on average, you do tend to spend more on your infrastructure than our other clients do. So I think that speaks well to trying to stay on top of your infrastructure needs as a municipality. The slide just after that one is also showing capital asset additions being the blue bars, the green ones being what was budgeted to be spent on capital assets, and the yellow being amortization. I won't get into too much detail here, but I'll just comment that the blue line tends to be above the yellow one more often than not, this year being the 2025 year being the only exception. But generally speaking, when you're spending a fair amount more than your amortization most years, that's probably a good indication that you are, staying on top of your infrastructure needs to the extent that you can. So the next slide just gives some information on the statement of operations. This would be your income statement in the business world, but it's called the statement of operations in municipal reporting. So it shows revenues, expenses versus prior year and budget. And if we go to the next slide, we will see that statement on screen. So just a few comments. Here, taxation revenue is above budget in prior year. Basically, supplemental taxes in 2025 were higher than what was budgeted and what was the case in 2024. So that's an increase there. The obligatory reserve fund revenue line, the second one from the bottom of the revenue section, is down. That's largely because of capital. So as I said, you spent less in capital in 2025 than 2024. So you need to draw less out of those reserve funds to fund capital purchases. So that's just a recognition of revenue from those obligatory reserve funds. So that amount being down means that your total revenues are down by about 220,000. On the expense side, we see an increase of about $1 million, just basically kind of usual fluctuations that we'd expect to see. You can see increases in most of the departments, and that's just kind of inflationary elements on some of your costs, changes in staffing and increased planning activity were kind of some of the themes over the year. The annual surplus, though, you can see at 1.7 million, still better than budget as it's presented in these financial statements at $1 million. So a positive financial result in the year overall. And so that's what brings the overall accumulated surplus up to that 101 million. The next slide is just your expenditures by department. Not surprisingly, transportation, environmental services, and recreation being the three largest. That would be consistent with previous years and consistent with most municipalities that have similar kind of structure as yours does. And the next slide shows just a 5-year comparison of those costs. Again, you can see a fair amount of consistency year over year. Transportation services, environmental, and rec being the three largest. Next slide just explains the statement of changes in net financial assets. So this is kind of backing out the activity from your capital assets and infrastructure purchases to arrive at the change in your net financial position. And so if we jump to the next slide, basically at the top is your annual surplus, but the middle section is where we're kind of taking out all the capital asset activity. And the line about 2/3 of the way down, the increase in net financial assets is that $2 million increase. That's an improvement in your general financial position, but partly because you spent less on capital asset additions this year. The slide just after that explains the statement of cash flows. And if we jump to the next slide again, this one is very hard to see. There's a lot of numbers on this slide, so I will kind of only cover 3 or 4 key lines. So about halfway down, you see 5.29 million. That is the positive cash generated from operating activity. So basically, you're kind of raising taxes, with grant revenues and all those sorts of things, net of your expenditures. Your operating activities are generating $5.3 million of cash. From that, you're repaying debt of $1.1 million. That's just the loan repayments that were due in the year. You spent $3.2 million on capital asset additions, so that's investing in your infrastructure, and then put $1.2 million into investments. So the net of those things is a decrease in cash of about $287,000. When you combine cash and investments in total, they're up by a little over $900,000 on the year. The next slide just describes the schedule of accumulated surplus. So that's that $101 million that I mentioned. It does break it out into various components that we'll see on the next slide. So of that 101 million, about 82 million is your investment in capital assets. That's your investment in infrastructure. It's obviously kind of a permanent investment. It's not money that you can cash out or anything like that. But that is kind of the biggest component of your accumulated surplus overall. Just below that number is the general fund surplus. So it's about $3 million. So that's kind of the operating surplus that the organization has from its operating activities. And then just below that are the reserves and reserve funds. This excludes the obligatory reserve funds, so they're shown separately in the statements. These are just discretionary reserves and reserve funds set aside by council. You can see reserves down by about $236,000 to about $2.34 million, with the reserve funds up by a little over $1 million to about $13.6 million. And so those things collectively make up that accumulated surplus. Next slide is the deferred revenue. So this is kind of revenues you've received that you haven't yet recognized, most of that being obligatory reserve funds. And the reason that those are deferred revenue and not part of the accumulated surplus is because they're restricted by legislation, your gas tax or Canada building fund agreements, those sorts of things. And so because they're externally restricted, they're considered a liability. But if we go to the next slide, this shows the deferred revenue balances. You can see most of it being your development charge reserve fund, but you do have gas tax, building reserve, cash in lieu of parkland, and OSIP is that grant funding that I mentioned, that being the primary reason for the increase. You received about $1.5 million of OSIP funding, but spent about $780,000 of that. So that is the increase largely in the deferred revenue balances. The next slide combines all of the reserves and reserve funds, both the ones in accumulated surplus and deferred revenue, and compares it to the average of other municipalities as a percentage of tax revenue. And this is where I said that your reserves and reserve funds are in a stronger spot than the average of our municipal clients. You can see the 269% versus 207. So 269 means that you have almost 3 times or 2.7 times the amount of your tax revenue sitting in reserves and reserve funds. So that's to cover future expenditures, capital investments, infrastructure investments, whereas the average municipality has about 207 or just over 2 times. So again, a strong position to be in from a reserves and reserve fund standpoint. I always caution though that, you know, I'm not an engineer. I'm not a expert on your asset management plan, which is kind of the forward looking. Accountants tend to look backwards. Engineers and your building department, your department heads and so on are looking forward to kind of future expenditures and infrastructure investment needs. So this is just talking about the value of the amount of your reserve funds. I couldn't comment on any municipality whether they have enough set aside, just to say that you tend to have more set aside than other municipalities tend to. So with that said, the next slide is just some next steps. So subject to council's approval today, that will allow us to have management sign the representation letter that allows us to finalize the financial statements on your behalf, and which can be submitted with your financial information return to the ministry and complete this year's audit. So with that, thank you for your time, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Short. Are there any questions? Councillor Elliott.
Mine isn't so much a question as a comment. I want to thank our staff for doing what they do to get us in such a great financial situation. Like, looks really strong, and we're in, by the graphs and stuff, we're stronger in most communities, and it's because of their hard work and telling us what we have to do as counselors, and we listen to them, fortunately. So they've done a good job for us. And thanks for that.
Thank you, Councillor Elliott. Mayor Turton.
Yeah, quick question, Chair. We haven't borrowed money for 4 years. Treasurer Duff, this year we are, or we're borrowing quite a bit, and these graphs will likely change.
Yeah. They do tend to change from year to year, but yeah, like a lot of municipalities are having to you know, invest in their infrastructure, and so you know, debt is not a it is a 4-letter word, but it's not necessarily a bad 4-letter word, if I can put it that way. As long as it's used kind of appropriately for capital projects as needed, then you know, I don't think there's any harm in using debt, provided that you're not kind of exceeding your repayment limits prescribed by the ministry, or you know, taking on more than you can afford to pay back, which hasn't been an issue in the past.
So no issues with us paying our bills.
No.
Thank you.
Okay. So the audited financial statements are the next item on the agenda, but we've kind of went through those in a PowerPoint, which is a much nicer way to go through them. And so we'll move to Treasurer
Yes,
Duff
sure.
with your report, if you'd like to give us that.
Thanks, Chair Dirksen. So I have a lot of numbers on mine, but Murray's kind of gone over them too. And I think, again, I think I say this every year, you could see what our plans were showing up in the statements. So the council has known for a minimum of 3 years that 2026 was going to be a heavy year.
Yeah.
And anyone driving around our town this month will see that. Anyway, so our statements, as the mayor indicated, will look very different in 26. We haven't borrowed for 5 years, 21. Beginning of 26, yes, we did borrow. It's primarily for the downtown Palmerston project, and a little bit for the Arthur Street, and that, fortunately, we did get some good amount of funding. So if we had to borrow the whole amount, that would be quite a thing. So yes, you'll probably see the reserves come down a bit and the debt go up. But that's because we're doing some work that needs, you know, just 2 days at an asset management conference. And that's the whole idea, is the infrastructure deficit. Everyone has one, and it's how you manage it, and that's what we're trying to do to prove that. Um, I think in general too, I'm pleased with the taxes receivable. Like Tanya's worked really hard at it, but we're seeing it. We're in a tough economy for sure, and people are finding it a bit of a struggle. But I think it's nowhere near what it was, say, 10 years ago too. And you kind of have to look. Even our debt level will go up, but we came through that like the 2008 to 2010. Uh, that's when debt really went up. And even with our new borrowing, because our old stuff, as you say, it's coming down about $1 million a year. So we add 3.5, probably next year we're going to go up by like 2.5, which is where we were like 3 or 4 years ago. So it's a judicious level of expenditures and debt too. And yeah, you're trying to walk a fine line and serve the residents the best we can. But anyway, now again, thanks to the RLB staff. It's good to work with Murray and Michelle Steele. I think she presented last year, and Karen and Melanie and all that. So they're very good to work with. And yeah, so if there's any questions, but other than that, our recommendation is approving the statement.
Councillor Elliott?
Yeah, just a comment, a thought. So we spend a lot of money and build our assets become a positive, so it kind of breaks even. So we do pay money to get to that level.
Yes, and of course, amortization, it's like, okay, we don't write it off in 1 year as we did in the old fund accounting, but we still depreciate it in the older language. And as one of those graphs indicated, because the assets get used up at a certain rate, if you're not at a minimum doing that, you're really going behind. And when we adopted our financial plan a year ago, that's what we looked at. We're trying to get a good rating. To go very good would be unaffordable. But if we just continue not investing, we're going to go down fair, poor, and nobody will be happy with that. So, and, hopefully the federal and provincial government will continue to recognize that municipalities do have a challenge. And I heard one fellow today, and he was in like the engineering public works. He goes, yeah, people hear the CPI is like 2%, but in municipal construction, that it's generally like 3 times higher. And just lack of competitiveness, and it's tough out there that we have to spend a lot of money. And look at the budget that we set in November, December. Did we know diesel was going to be this price and that? So you had all these external shocks that come in, but you try and build a buffer and be resilient and ride out the unevenness.
At the end, we become the best communities around the area, so that's what I'm proud of too.
Good.
Okay. I'm going to read the recommendation. It's moved by Councillor Podnowitz and seconded by Councillor Zimmerman that the Council of the Town of Minto hereby receives Report Finance 2026-018, the 2025 audited financial statements prepared by the Treasurer for information purposes. And further, that the Council of the Town of Minto approves the 2025 audited financial statements as presented. One last time for questions. Not seeing anything, I'll call the question. All in favor? Thank you. That carries. Thank you to both of you. And I'll turn the chair back to the mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Short. We appreciate you coming with the good news. Drive careful. So we are correspondence. I have a motion moved by Deputy Mayor Anderson, seconded by Councillor Cunson. Council receives the correspondence as information. We've got 5 items. Is there any items there that we need to discuss or further information on? Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Anderson.
I would like to support the document regarding traffic calming and speeding mitigation techniques. I think most people are aware that I thought speed cameras were a good idea. people couldn't catch on that there was a speed camera going to take a picture of them, and they need to learn to slow down. And in view of this tragic accident this weekend, I'd like to see speed cameras on every stop sign as well. Anyway, I think we should support that. And the second one that I wanted to look at was the invasive plants. They're becoming a real problem. And when we look at our rural land, nurseries are selling them, commercial nurseries are selling them. They take over, they take away the land, they take over the crops and the plants that we want to have growing. And I would like to support that as well.
Okay, any others? Okay, so motion by, sure, okay, yep, go ahead with the motion, please.
Sorry. So the first motion would be that the council of the town of Minto support the resolution from the village of Wolford regarding traffic calming and speeding mitigation techniques. And further, that the council endorse and support the resolution and direct staff to circulate the resolution of support to Premier Doug Ford, the Minister of Transportation, the Minister of Finance, MPP, D. Clark, AMO, and Roma. I think that should be MPP, sorry, it shouldn't. It should be our MPP, sorry.
Mr. Ray.
Matthew Ray. That would be
Okay.
the motion.
Okay. Deputy Mayor Anderson, would you
Yep.
move that, please? Can we have a
Absolutely.
seconder? Thank you. Councillor Zimmerman, all in favor of the motion? That's carried. And we'll go back to the original motion.
I
Sorry?
believe there was a second motion.
Oh, was it? Did you not include both of them? Sorry.
That
I-
was just the, that
No,
was
that's
just the
just
one
the
to
one.
do
I
with
apologize.
sorry.
And the other was
so then-
is invasive plants.
E.
Right, I didn't prepare one for this one, so give me 2 seconds. It is a long one,
It is.
sorry. It would be that the council of the town of Minto support the resolution from the town of Halton Hills regarding modernizing Ontario invasive plant rules to protect taxpayers, municipal lands, agriculture, natural heritage, and local gardens. And further, that the council endorse the resolution and direct staff to circulate the resolution of support to, let me just have a look, to the Premier of Ontario, the Ontario Minister of Natural Resources, the Ontario Minister of Agriculture, Food and Agribusiness, the Ontario Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, the Ontario Minister of Environment, Conservation and Parks, the Federal Minister of Environment and Climate Change, the Federal Minister of Agriculture and Agri-Food, Minto area MPs and MPPs. It wouldn't be the same as everyone else has on here. AMO, Roma, FCM, and the Ontario Invasive Plant Council.
And probably we want to put the Conservation Authority, our local one. up
And our
Grand
local
River.
conservation authorities.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, moved by Deputy Mayor Anderson. Can we have a seconder for that one, please? Councillor Gunson, all in favor of that motion? That's carried. Now we'll go back to the original motion for the other three. All in favor of correspondence be accepted? That's carried. Thank you very much. So we have, moving along to reports of committees and the DEI committee. And I'll ask, Mrs. Wick Graham to present.
Thank you, Mayor Turton. So the DEI minutes are from the May 28th meeting, just some of the highlights. On May 9th, they hosted the clothing swap in Clifford and had an enormous amount of clothing delivered, which is wonderful. Unfortunately, the attendance was about half as what we had in Harrison in the fall previous. So what has happened is the Community Resource Center has offered to take the clothing and distribute it as needed across our communities. And we still have a large amount of clothing still left. Hopefully they'll take the remainder, and if not, it will be distributed to other charities and shelters in the area. The Front Porch Food Drive is taking place on October 3rd from 9 to 1, with porch pickup happening from 10 till noon. So right now, the group is busy working on recruiting volunteers to assist with that. And advertising is out right now. So that's an exciting new initiative. And Greg has offered to support that for us. We will be participating in a First Impressions Community Exchange focused on accessibility with Clinton. So Harrison and Clinton will be swapping and going incognito, as I mentioned, to look at accessibility in their downtowns. We reviewed the action plan, and one of the items that came out of that, and this should say a flag, sorry, not banner, but for Truth and Reconciliation, they had a request to purchase a survivors banner that would hang for the month, I keep saying banner, flag, for the month of September in recognition of Truth and Reconciliation Day on September 30th. So they did approve $113 to do that. On September 1st, we will be hosting a flag raising here at the office at, I think it's 6:30 or something like that. And talking about the survivors flag and the land acknowledgement. And then on September 30th, hosting an event at the Norgan Theater. So more details will be coming as that approaches. And then we had a variety of updates, including the Pride in the Park celebration that was hosted, not this past Sunday, but the one before. And it was another successful event for that committee. And yeah, that was basically it for that meeting. If there's any questions.
Questions for Belinda? Let's read the motion first. Resolution moved by Councillor Elliott, seconded by Councillor Dirksen. Council receives the Diversity, Equity and Inclusion Committee minutes of May 28th, 2026 for information and approves any recommendations contained therein. Questions for Belinda? All in favor of the motion? That's carried. Thank you. And we'll move into the second report from ECDEP. Belinda, please.
Yep. So the Economic Development Planning Committee met on June 4th, and thank you to Whiteman for hosting us for a tour of the Harrison Pop, the point of presence station across from the train station. It was really neat to actually see the fiber system that operates in our communities. It was really cool. So thanks to Cameron and Mr. Novotny for that tour, Stephen. We had all the downtown minutes presented, and then we had Wes and Dave there to present building updates, which was great to see that in our community, at least, things are going really well. The same can't be said across the province, so we're in a good position. Charlene also provided a workforce update. So as you can see, unemployment is up about 0.4% across our rural region, which is quite large. It's about 1,000 people, but it's a broad territory. It goes all the way up to Simcoe County. So she wasn't too concerned about that sort of stuff. We went through some of our BRNE action plans. So we'll let you know that the Pitch It competition had 10 applications. We are down to 8 who will be presenting next week to the judges, and the finalists or the winner will be announced July 7th at Launch It, and everyone's invited to attend. Please RSVP. Our building Better Main Street in downtown Palmerston, we've hosted 3 construction cafes, trying to get our businesses prepared for next year. So we're trying to get more to come out for that, and happy to report that the county has come on as a financial sponsor to allow for other Wellington County businesses facing construction to come to that. So that is helpful. And then we just updated on the Minto Mapleton Works event that was held in April, had a good attendance for that and good feedback. Our CIP program is going very, very well, and we will be very likely out of money, and I may be coming back to you. But it's going well. We're seeing lots of great projects happening in our community for those. And I think that's all that I wanted to highlight out of those minutes.
So we have a resolution moved by Councillor Gunson, seconded by Councillor Plotnovich, that the council receives the Economic Development and Planning Committee minutes of June 4th, 2026 for information and approves any recommendation contained therein. Questions for Belinda? ECDEP meeting this morning at the county. Christina was speaking very highly of the Whiteman tour. She loved the pod, loved all those wires, and was really excited. We had quite a good discussion about some of the same issues that you talked about. So,
Mayor Turn, can I just mention one thing?
absolutely. Go ahead.
So at our September meeting, which is our next meeting, we will be doing a tour up to Walkerton to see the WT apartments that are going to be similar to the ones being built in Palmerston. So the committee has been invited to that. Council is invited to join us. And then we'll be going back to Palmerston, having lunch, and then doing a corporate culture trust corps So council is also invited to attend that as well. I think I've sent out a calendar invite, but just wanted to clarify that that is what is happening. So everyone's invited.
What was the date on that, Belinda?
I want to say September 17th.
17th.
Yes.
Other questions? Okay, there's a pile of information on that report, so I strongly encourage anybody that wants to stay in touch with what's going on in Minto to take a few moments and read that. So all in favor of the motion? It's carried. Thank you. And thank you, Belinda, for those. I will pass the chair over to Councillor Guns.
Thanks, Mayor Turton. So tonight we've got one report, the 2026 Palmerston Well 3 and 4 capital budget amendment. We've got Todd here to present the report.
Thanks, Councillor Gunson. Yeah, I'm here tonight to ask for a budget amendment for the 2026 budget. We budgeted $30,000 to pull wells 3 and 4 in Palmerston for once every 10 years. We do a down well inspection and pull the column and the pump and the motor out and inspect them. And yeah, when we pulled number 3 at the end of April, and we found that we needed to replace a motor and a check valve in the column. So that took the price of that well alone up to $45,000, which is over the approved budget. So we would like to continue and pull and inspect well 4 still this year, but to do that, there's an ask for an amendment to the budget of $35,000, which would come from the capital water reserve funds. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Thanks, Todd. I'll read the resolution. Moved by Councillor Podnowitz, second by Councillor Zimmerman, that the Council of the Town of Minto hereby receives report PW 2026-026, 2026 Palmerston Well 3 and 4 capital budget amendment prepared by the Water Services Manager for information purposes. And further, that the Council of the Town of Minto directs the Treasurer to amend the 2026 capital budget and to transfer $35,000 from the Water Capital Reserve Fund over to cover the Well 3 cost overrun and to allow for the planned Well 4 inspection work to proceed. And further, that the Council of the Town of Minto directs the Water Services Manager to proceed with the planned Well 4 inspection work in 2026. Any questions for Todd? Mayor Turt?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The check valve, what kind of an effect would that have on our system?
So what it does, it's in the column and it prevents the system water from going back down into the well. So the system has 2 checks, one that's in the pump itself and then one that's partway up the column. It's a double safety, but yeah, if both were to fail, then your system water would basically flow back down into the well. What it does cause by letting that column drain is when the well starts without that there, that column's empty. So it pushes air up through the system, which causes hammering. So.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's carried. Thank you. And I'm going to pass the chair to Councillor Dirksen.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. And we are now going to talk about development charges. The reserve funds. So
Yeah,
turn
reserve
it over
funds, and
to-
then we'll talk about development.
and then we'll talk about other
Yes,
development charges.
yeah, this is a financing meeting tonight.
Looks that
I'm
way.
afraid. So this is one of the statutory reports that treasurers are to do, and it's on the development charges reserve funds. However, if you happen to pull out last year's, you'll see this year's report's about 3 times longer, even though we had hardly any activity, but this is another mandatory regulation that we've got. Also, it had to be done sometime after the year end, and now it has to be done by June 30th. So we're meeting that. And we also have to post it on the website and send it into the ministry too. So anyway, our auditor kind of reviewed the development charges too, and there's no real surprises here. Because our building activity was quite low and we had some other adjustments, we only totaled $72,000 in this year. And what we took out was $55,000 for a roads project and $60,000 for a fire project. We take the funds and we do invest them, and interest rates were quite good in 25. So we did have considerable interest. In total, development charges started the year at 2,317,000 and ended the year just slightly up at 2,355,000. Again, that is for everything, all the services that we're allowed to. And again, this report is on 25, and as you know, we just passed the new development charges bylaw a couple of councils ago. So this is all under the 2019-2020 reserve or development charge study with indexation. The other thing, the government wants to make sure we're not sitting on hordes of money and are allocating these. So in our development charge study, 201 pages, I just selected a few from each service of projects, just ones that were slated to be 2026 to 2041. I didn't do any of those far ones. And I could have picked many more, but you'll note that we, just in picking a few of those projects, we are 800% allocated. So it's not a matter of things being eligible. Our development charges are low and we do use them. So that's not a problem meeting that. And I also have to formally attest that we have followed certain regulations and acts in the Development Charge Act, which we have. Our development charge picture is quite simple compared to large municipalities. So anyway, I put forward this report and take any questions, but it's to be accepted.
I will read the recommendation. Back here to see who moved this. Moved by Councillor Gunson and seconded by Deputy Mayor Anderson that the Council of the Town of Minto hereby receives Report Finance 2026-16, the 2025 Development Charges Reserve Funds, prepared by the Treasurer for information purposes. And further, that the Council of the Town of Minto accepts the Treasurer's declaration that the town is in compliance with Section 59.1, brackets 1 of the Development Charges Act 1997. And further, that the Council of the Town of Minto directs staff to post this report and related attachments on the Town of Minto's website. Any questions? Okay, seeing none, all in favor. Thank you, that carries. All right, now we're going to talk about the reduction program.
Yes, so this has kept most treasurers in Ontario very busy, at least in the municipalities that collect development charges. So this program was announced on June the 1st with a due date of 10 a.m. June the 19th. So it's been a real scramble and we're still gathering information if you decide to go ahead. I happened to flip the TV on and Waterloo Council was on dealing with this very issue. So it's not a slam dunk, oh, yes or absolutely no. Basically, what this program requires is that if successful, you don't have to make a ruling tonight, but if successful, you would agree to reduce development charges by a percentage, whether it's 30% or 50%, but minimum 30, and hold that for a period of 3 years on residential development. So it won't affect our, factories or commercial developments or that, but it does apply to all types of residential, whether it's a house, a semi, an apartment, everything. Also, for the projects that are selected, the municipality has to put in at least 10%. The government says in the guidelines it will favor applications where municipalities put in more than 10%. And in return, you will get funding. It's very much tied to the number of additional houses that we will get. Again, because our development charges are not that high, that number is going to be a modest amount. And we've worked with the building department to try and, hazard a guess at what that would be. It would probably help a bit because, we have developers, if they can cut their costs by any amount, that's a good thing. Whether it's a good enough to, change that decision of whether or not to go ahead with the project, certainly is open to debate. We did have a very brief webinar that I believe our CEO and deputy and that attended. There was a line that there may be a program better suited to rural and smaller municipalities, but no details. This is what we have. And the other thing, if we were successful, we would be informed probably by the end of July because we have to return the transfer payment agreement by August 15th. And I believe our August meeting is August the 11th, so we could do that. That's a very speedy turnaround for a federal provincial program, but those are the guidelines that we have. So we've written the recommendation to go ahead, but we would like some guidance on the options, and they are found on page 2 of the report. Basically, A and B are similar, C and D are also similar, and E is no application. So it's the amount of the DC reduction. And I'm thinking that if we do go ahead, we would just do the 30%, but you could put in 10% of the project or a third of the project or something. And level of building activity, that's a kind of a guess. So we've had 2 years of low to medium building activity. So far, 26 is looking like it's going to be high for Minto. So again, the more building permits that you reduce, well, your revenue loss will be a little more. That's why the biggest revenue would be if you put in the minimal and you reduce the DCs by a small amount. However, that makes your application less likely to be approved. So it's a trade-off. This one is a complicated grant. Like the application was 32 pages, and we're still relying on our engineers and that to gather more information. But that's the program that we have, and we're taking a swing at it anyway. But happy to answer any questions if I can. Mayor Andy?
All right. Are there any questions? Deputy Mayor Anderson?
So, sorry. I have to push a button or something? I don't know. Okay. What do I know? I'm looking at these projects and I might be off in left field here. I'm assuming they would want you proposing projects that are going to increase housing. Are these going to qualify? I understand we need the wells, we need the
Yes.
water, we need the sewer. That seems to be something we understand well, but maybe higher levels of government don't understand that we need infrastructure. But will they qualify?
Yes.
It's not direct construction of houses. It's this sort of thing is eligible.
Exactly. It's the infrastructure. And what is our limiting factor on how much we can grow in both Harrison and Palmerston? It's water capacity.
Okay. So we
With
think they'll
sewer-
understand that when you submit that,
I
right?
think so, yes.
Okay.
And the guidelines are very vague when it comes to water. I
Mhm.
got the answer today that water wells are a water treatment facility.
Okay,
So they do qualify.
okay.
So that's good. And the other is improving some roads. But yes, that's exactly, it's a bit like the HUSIF where we had to tie number of housing units. So saying that if we put in better water mains in Palmerston and better sewer infrastructure and that, then that would allow subdivisions that are on the books to go ahead and still have the capacity and
Okay. I was
distribute
just
the water.
curious about
No,
that.
it's a
'Cause I
good
think they'd
question.
want to say, okay, we want you to put the foundations in or pay for the foundations. All right, thank you very much.
And Mayor and
Yes, thank you. Madam
Mayor
Chair. So
Turton,
it's
sorry.
another provincial government issue that's putting municipalities under the gun. You work at it, you get your engineers, we spend money on this, and what's the odds? What are the odds? Like, the odds, you won't know until that day.
You don't know, but when they keep saying they're looking for a large investment and an increase in housing, we know housing is a big thing. We're a small municipality, we can only grow so fast, that's it. And,
So in your thought, Treasurer Duff, who are they trying to appease here? Is it Toronto? Is it the large municipalities? Are they more
we kind of think so.
possibility
Well,
that they'll likely get more money?
Todd and I were just discussing, we know Waterloo Region has some major issues
Sure.
that have ground their development of all kinds
Yeah.
to a halt. And it's definitely infrastructure related. It is water supply with them. I'm thinking municipalities that have, like the LRT or can extend their transit lines or that. That's certainly going to spur development. So in our own way, we figured these wells and some other road improvements would certainly help prospective subdivisions to go. Yeah, again, even here, I know the average price of a new house, probably 700,000. I think at our last economic, they said like the selling price was in the 600s, but that's used houses. New houses, I think you're probably in the 7 to 900,000 range. So whether saving 10,000 on DCs is going to tip it over, don't know, but what we can offer.
So realistically, if we don't apply, if we don't, gonna say play the game, it's not a game. It's, if we don't apply, they might look at us as DCs we're okay with them.
Yeah. That's the issue. And if you recall, our first use of grant was not successful because they only had so much in the pot. Well, they made the pot bigger, and then we got pushed through to the next round. I can tell, like even from how the ministry presentation went, this was done in quite a hurry, even on the government side. So, as you said, perhaps if you show that you're willing to work with what they put out, maybe the next one will be better, or higher chance. So, but it's whatever you decide. If you want to take a crack, I think we've done about 85% of the work.
When do you have to have it in, Gord?
Thursday, 10. Friday at 10. Thursday at the latest. If we got the information, we'd put it in tomorrow.
Okay. So what we're voting on here tonight is whether we are and which one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Deputy Mayor Anderson.
I would just like to thank you for doing the
You're
work
welcome.
involved in what could be a very futile exercise, because you could have just not told us anything about it. We probably never would have known. But just thank you.
Yeah, that's
You
good.
must just shake your heads and go, oh no, and then start plugging through. So good
Yeah,
on you
that's
guys.
what we did.
Thank you
Thanks.
very much.
Mayor
Sorry,
Anderson.
one more thing.
Gee
sorry.
whiz.
Can
Sorry.
you- Can you share with us, thank you, Madam
Mayor
Chair,
Turton.
what the county is doing?
I don't think I can
Okay.
because the last I saw, they hadn't decided.
Yeah.
I believe 3 lower tiers are definitely going ahead.
Yeah. So I'm pretty sure that's the way it was decided, that the county of Wellington's going to allow the lower tiers to go ahead.
Yeah.
Is that what you?
And their responsibilities are different from the lower tiers.
Yes.
They don't do the water wastewater. They do the roads and certain other support services. But the lower tiers, I think, have more hard assets.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Gord. And Tanya.
Okay, anyone else with questions or comments? Before I read this, I need to hear a thought on an option. So we're gonna get stalled on the option part.
Mhm.
So that's on page 2 of the report. A, B, C, D, E.
So do we, the option?
I think you're
That's the
looking,
idea. I mean, you can direct us to pick it opposite, but we're kind of laying it out. Like, it's like a matrix. There's many more possibilities. You could put in 25% or 20, like,
Okay.
so these
yeah.
are some suggestions.
Yeah.
Do you have a
exactly.
favorite?
You don't, like, you have a minimum of 10%
Mhm.
and a 30% reduction.
Right.
Well, what do you feel comfortable with? You do more numbers than we do.
I don't know. If I had to vote, and I don't, I would probably go the 30% and 10%.
So A or B though?
A or B. Well, it doesn't matter. A
No,
or B
both the
is
same.
not under our control. That's if it's high.
Oh, I
level
see. That's just
activity or
what the
low.
impact would
Yeah,
be
yeah.
depending on.
Yeah,
Sure, okay.
We can only control the first two columns.
Right, okay. So there's really 3 options then for us.
There's really 3.
Okay,
For 3 years.
For 3 years, retroactive to March 30th of 2026. And I know it's in the report, but just to remind you, even though we just passed the new DCs, we would be cutting 30% on the old DCs.
Oh.
But our foregone revenue would be the new DCs because if we didn't cut it, we'd be at the new level. Now,
Already
it
got
didn't
that?
go, it didn't
Oh,
go up, yeah.
okay.
So
Did not
in
realize.
rough figures, say a single family house was 14,000 Minto DC on March 30th. It's now say 16.5. So we would cut 30% of the 14, but our lost revenue would be the 16.5.
Okay. Right.
Clear, right?
Giving us all a headache here.
Yeah. Didn't know it was a math class.
Wowie.
Yeah. Mm.
Okay. Mayor Turton.
Thank you. So I really think that you folks have been involved in this for the last number of days. And I mean, we're really taking your recommendation. Gord, Tanya,
Yeah, and I don't want to mislead you.
Yeah.
Like I brought other grants, I'm going like, we got this, or we got a good shot. I don't think we have a good shot, but it's like a lottery. If you don't buy a ticket, you've got no shot, right?
so
So,
we throw this out after all the work you guys have done, and we go for a 30%, 30%, 10%. And if it's not accepted, we're back to the way we're doing it right now.
that's correct.
So
Yeah.
we really don't have anything to lose, other than all the hard work that you folks have done.
That's the way I see it. And I realize not all treasurers are seeing it that way.
Oh, they aren't. eh?
Because it's a very, like, even at this conference, I talked to 4 people and 2 of them are, yep, and 2 of them, no, it's not where, but as the mayor spoke, that's kind of, like, to me, the downside risk is not that large because our development charges are not that large. If our development charges were 100,000, well, we're giving up 30,000 a house. Well, we're giving up 4. But from a developer's point of view, maybe the 30,000 would be the decision where it's 4.
And I
So
think too,
realistically-
oh, sorry.
Sorry.
You go ahead.
Our contractors have we had any dialogue? Has anybody called and said, are we going for this?
Yes,
They have?
yes, we have. And that was their question, as far as
Yep.
I know, are we going for this? So we said, we're taking it to council and we're going to decide.
So what I was going to say is I think when you've already completed 85% of the work, it's still a lot, but it's not as much as if you had completed 15% of the
Yeah.
work and you were still looking at 85% of the work that still needed to be
Yeah.
completed.
If we were coming
for us
to
to
you
have a
on
shot
June
at it.
2nd, yes. But we're coming to you on the 16th, so,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I think that's something to think about too.
Sorry, Madam Chair, one more thing. So
Okay.
obviously, it sounds to me like our Treasury Department all along has thought, yes, we are going to apply.
Yes, but we're not like 90%.
Yeah.
You know, we're like 55%, I think so.
So you are prepared no matter what our answer is. That's what you're telling us.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So,
Do you
Oh,
want me to
sorry.
read one in the positive for you for option A?
that would be just what's written here though, isn't it? With just putting option A
Just
in?
changing it out slightly with, it changes the middle one, that's all.
Sure. Let's hear what it would be.
Sure. If you, moved by Councillor Zimmerman and seconded by Councillor Elliott, that the Council of the Town of Minto hereby receives report of Finance 2026-017, Development Charges Reduction Program, prepared by the Treasurer for information purposes, and further that the Council of the Town of Minto direct staff to go forward with option A as stated on the report, and further that the Council of the Town of Minto direct staff to prepare and submit an application to the Development Charges Reduction Program, Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, on or before the June 19th deadline.
Okay. So you just shortened up that middle section there. Okay. Means the same thing.
Yes.
Okay,
Mhm.
perfect.
We have a move in a second.
It was moved by Councillor Zimmerman, seconded by Councillor Elliott.
So we don't have to call that amended or anything.
Because he says in there to pick the option, that automatically goes in there then.
Okay. All right. Any further thoughts? If not, I'll call the question. All in favor? Thank you. That carries. And one more item. I was almost going to turn the chair back. Now we have our Deputy Treasurer, Tanya Robertson, to present the first quarter financial review.
Thank you. Through you, Chair Dirksen, to members of council, I am pleased to be here tonight to present the town's financial results for the first quarter ending March 31st, 2026. As council is aware, first quarter results provide an early indication of the town's financial position and progress against the approved budget. At this stage of the year, many revenues and expenditures are still timing dependent. So these results should be viewed as a snapshot rather than a prediction of the year-end outcomes. The town remains in a stable financial position at the end of the first quarter. Revenues and expenditures are generally tracking in line with expectations and the approved 2026 budget. Many departmental expenditures are below budget at this point in the year due to the seasonal nature of municipal operations, with several projects and planned purchases scheduled in the later quarters. The finance department continues to monitor spending closely and looks to identify opportunities to manage costs while maintaining our service levels. At this time, there are no significant concerns that would materially impact the town's overall financial position. Overall, our first quarter financial results indicate that operations are proceeding largely as planned and remain consistent with the approved 2026 budget. And I'd be pleased to answer any questions that you may have.
That all sounds perfect. Thank you. Any questions? Deputy Mayor Anderson.
Not a question so much, but a thank you for this, because this is the sort of budgeting I get. I don't know about everybody else, but giving me a variance review gives me some idea of where we're going and do we need to look. But on that point, I probably don't have this down. The 46.7% for administration, the percent was there a big purchase? Was there a piece of equipment or new
It's-
computer project or?
No, it's just allocating of wages. Like a lot of things go through administration and then we will do budget like adjusting.
I see.
It just
Okay.
won't, so you'll see a difference in the second quarter.
Okay, it just sort of jumped out at me
Yeah,
there.
for sure.
Anyway, thank you very much. I appreciate this. It makes it very clear for me to see where we're at.
Anyone else? Okay, I'll read the recommendation. Moved by Councillor Podnowitz and seconded by Deputy Mayor Anderson that the Council of the Town of Minto hereby receives report finance 2026-015, the 2026 first quarter financial review prepared by the Deputy Treasurer for information purposes. That's the right number, is it? It's out of order, so I'm just making sure. Okay, one last time, chance for questions. Calling the question. All in favor? Thank you. That carries. Thank you for your report. And I will turn the chair back to the mayor.
Yeah, and so on behalf of the council, town of Minto, we rely very heavily on our treasury department. And we are so fortunate to have such a reading report here tonight from Mr. Short. And you guys, goes without saying, all the work that you guys do. And I mean, doing all this work on development charges and on the government's beck and call, and not even knowing for sure whether we would support you on sending it in after you've put numerous hours into it. So, and we do. We as council do go on your recommendation more than you might think. And so thank you for all your hard work. We certainly appreciate it. And that goes for Jane as well. I know that she's a big part of what you guys do. And without her assistance, who would do that? So you can thank her. I know you're heading back up north, right, Mr. Duff? But now are you on vacation now? No. Oh, you are.
Are you having fun yet?
I don't mean right now. I mean, starting tomorrow. So thank you. We're going to move into a clerk's report, 2026-004. It's a joint compliance audit committee, 2026 to 2030 term of council.
Thank you, Mayor Turton. So this is report is before you to meet the requirements of the Municipal Elections Act regarding the establishment of a compliance audit committee prior to the 2026 municipal election. So we have participated in a joint compliance audit committee with other Wellington County municipalities for the past 3 terms, and we are recommending that this continue for the next term as well. The committee's role is to review applications from electors who believe a candidate may have contravened the campaign financing provisions of the Municipal Election Act and determine whether a compliance audit is warranted. The committee also reviews reports from the municipal clerks regarding contributors who may have exceeded contribution limits and determines whether legal proceedings should be commenced. The proposed terms of reference were attached and are consistent with previous terms, and any costs associated with the compliance audit, including committee remuneration and auditor expenses, would be borne by the municipality from which the audit originates. Committee members are compensated at $250 per meeting plus mileage, and these costs are incurred only if the committee is required to meet. And my recommendation is that you approve and pass the bylaw in open session.
Thank you, Clerk McRobb. So we have a motion moved by Councillor Zimmerman, seconded by Councillor Dirksen. The Council of the Town of Minto hereby receives report Clerk 2026-004 Joint Compliance Audit Committee 2026 to 2030 term of council prepared by the Director of Legislative Services, Clerk, for information purposes. And further, that council approves the terms of reference for a joint compliance audit committee with the Wellington County municipalities attached as Schedule A for the 2026 to 2030 term of council. And further, that council considers a bylaw in open session to establish a joint compliance audit committee for 2026 to 2030 term of council and to appoint members to the joint compliance audit committee for 2026 to 2030 term of council. Questions for Annalene? Go ahead, Councillor Dirksen.
I'm just curious how busy this committee has been. Do we have any sense of that?
I can advise that the town of Minto has never used them.
Perfect. That's all I really
So-
want to know.
I think maybe last election or the one before, they were called out once or twice, but it has not been extra busy for them at all. But we do require it with the Municipal Elections Act.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to call the question. All in favor of the motion? Thank you very much. Annalene, I want to thank you as well for all the hard work that you're doing on this election. I know it's not easy when people come in and throw stuff at you, but you're always very considerate of us counselors for sure. We get the answers that we need to our questions, and thank you for doing that. We're going to move on to the Clerk 2026-005, Pregnancy and Parental Leave Top-Up Policy by Quinn Marecki. Please.
Thank you. So through you, Mayor Turton, to members of council, this report and the recommendation comes out of the people plan that was approved by council earlier this year. One of the priorities identified through that work was enhancing our offerings to support our recruitment and retention efforts, and the development of a leave top-up program was included as a specific action item to help with that. We sent out a survey after we had the plan sort of set that asked staff to prioritize the action items that were listed based on what would be most important to them, and it was indicated that this particular item is of significant importance to quite a few staff members, which is why it's being brought forward within the first year of the plan. So in developing this particular program, staff conducted extensive research, including the collection and review of policies from numerous municipalities focusing on those comparators that we regularly compete with for talent. And the proposed approach is very much in line with what is being offered by the majority of those employers and helps to ensure that the town remains competitive when attracting and retaining employees and setting us up in the market as an employer of choice. The proposed policy provides a consistent administrative guideline for delivering this benefit should council choose to implement it, and staff have worked to ensure that the policy is family friendly and balances employee support with fiscal responsibility and provides clear guidance for the way it would roll out. We're proposing that the implementation date for this policy would be January 1st of 2027. So it would only apply to leaves that begin after that date, which allows time for communication and for the administrative team and payroll to prepare how we would implement this with our current payroll system. And so with that, the recommendation before council is to endorse the policy as it's written, and I am here to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you, Quinn. So the motion is moved by Councillor Elliott, seconded by Councillor Gunson, that Council of the Town of Minto hereby receive report CL 2026-005, Pregnancy and Parental Leave Top-Up Policy, prepared by the Deputy Clerk, Manager, People and Culture for information purposes, and further that the Council of the Town of Minto endorses and adopts the policy as presented. Questions for Quinn? All I can say is here at Minto, we strive to hire the best possible employees that we can.
Mm-hmm.
And if this is something that we need to move along with and update it in our policy booklet, and our benefits, and we likely need to do it. So if there's no further questions or whatever, I'm going to call the question. All in favor of the motion? Thank you, Quinn. Okay, we're going to start with Councillor Elliott on announcements.
I have no announcement. Yeah, 2 in a row. I have no.
I can maybe knock one off of Councillor Zimmerman's list.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson.
So the firefighters held their pancake breakfast on last Saturday. It was very successful. The weather actually come around a little bit for us, and we served 695 people. The other one I have is there's a Minto resident, Bernie Hale, who is let me see if I can figure this out. Lock No Music in the Fields, he put submitted I don't know, what do you call that?
Application.
An application for an emerging artist showdown to play in that music festival. So there's voting open. There's, I think, 8 finalists. And currently he is sitting in second place with like 1,344 votes. So voting ends on June 18th. So please go on the website and vote for Bernie Hale, because it'd be nice to see it. From what I understand, they're taking the top 2. So I think he's in, but let's get him to number 1 and assure that he gets there.
What website is that?
What is the website?
So if you
Sorry.
just Google Music in the Fields and you follow down and you'll see Emerging Artist Showdown and it says vote. So, yeah. Anyways, I think the other gentleman is at 1,500 votes or something like that, so let's do some mental strong stuff here to get this guy to number
Good,
one.
thank you for that. Councillor Dirksen?
Thank you, Mayor Turton. I just wanted to highlight the 2026 Palmerston District Hospital Foundation Gala. I should have talked about this last time, I guess, but it was a huge success. It was held on May 30th at the Harrison Minto Community Center. And once again, it was a sellout crowd. The theme was From Coast to Coast, a Canadian Gala Evening, and our very own Canadian Mountie Neil Aitchison made an appearance. The event, this is the important part, the event raised $280,000 to continue the foundation's pledge of quality care close to home. So big thanks to everyone who attended, everyone who contributed, and a huge thanks to the Army of Volunteers who made it all happen. These events and this kind of money raised does not happen without a huge community effort. So I just wanted to send out congratulations to the foundation for that. And then an upcoming event, the Drew community is holding their annual barbecue on Sunday evening, the 12th of July, between the hours of 5 and 7 p.m. Tickets are available by contacting any member of the Drew community. If you happen to be in the area, there's a sign at the Drew ballpark. It has all the information you need to secure the tickets. Tickets are $25 each for adults, and I believe they're $15 for kids. Got a later email after I had done this, and so I don't have them together in the same place. And that the money goes to making, this year it's going to making a few small improvements at the hall, and then also some improvements to the ball diamond. And this event always sells out, so do not delay if you would like to attend. And that's all I have for today.
Thank you, Councillor Dirksen. Councillor Zimmerman, do you have anything to present?
Yes, matter of fact, I
Silly-
do, Mayor.
very-
Thank you.
Very silly question.
Yeah, it was. Just kidding. This coming Saturday, June 16th, at the Palmerston Heritage Railway Museum, from 9 until noon, is the Minto Farmers Market Annual Strawberry Social. So, celebrating everything strawberry, plus live music from a very talented young local singer, Ebony Morose, is singing there. So that would be worthwhile coming to see. And they're asking you, if you want to wear something red, you'll get extra entries into their weekly draw just by wearing something red. So that's something cool. Also, that very same day, starting at noon until 6, is the annual, let's see, let me read what I have written here. The action shifts to the Palmerston Lions Heritage Park Pavilion for the 5th annual Railway Festival, featuring handcar races and a cornhole tournament hosted by Palmerston All Aboard and the Palmerston Firefighters Association. They're asking you to pre-register your teams for the games, $20 for cornhole, and that's 2 players, and $50 for the handcar teams. I think that's 4 people for handcars. Entry to the festival is $10 per person in advance, or $15 per person the day of. All kinds of information on social media, how to get your tickets.
That's age of majority too, I think, in
It might be.
I think it is.
I'm pretty sure it is, yes.
Well,
They
because
have-
families used to be able to come in. but I
They
think-
have a great number of exhibitors and providers of adult beverages, and yeah, you can't go wrong. And the weather will be great, I'm sure. Then we're gonna shift a week, June 27th. The town of Minto is going to be doing a town-wide yard sale day. So far, the count of registered addresses as of yesterday was 29 that have pre-registered to let everyone know that they're open for business. You can register at Town of Minto website. under upcoming events at the town-wide yard sale and look for the addresses there. So if you want to make your map to get your bargains, there you go. If you want to add your address, you can email Erin at the town of Minto, Erin at town.minto.on.ca, and you could add your address to that list as well. That is June 27th. And then just a little plug, because we're going to be not in session later, July 3rd and 4th, and also the 5th of July is the Clifford Rotary Park is going to be the 16th annual Great Lakes Park Club Park Show and Shine. So make your way up to Clifford, check some of the most beautiful and unique equipment. And also part of that is going to be farmers breakfast served on Saturday and Sunday mornings, and that's why the Clifford Fire Department is doing that. So if you can get there, that would be good to support that. And I think that was by donation for the breakfast. And then something a little solemn. Friday evening this past weekend, there was a horrific traffic accident in Mapleton Township, and a family, a large family of 11 people were in this crash, and 5 of the young children passed away. And I can't imagine how they're dealing with that right now. So anyway, they've released the name of the family, and forgive me if I'm not saying this right. I think you pronounce it Dursken, Doerksen.
It's probably Dirksen, to be honest.
You think it's Dirksen?
Yeah.
Okay. I wasn't sure. There's a GoFundMe page, and I'm checking it right now. We're at $287,233 raised in a couple or 3 days here. If you're able to, you can search that website and make a donation. That would be. It's under GoFundMe, so I just search Dirksen GoFundMe and you'll find the right page. So along with that, being as Councillor Gunson and myself are firefighters in Minto, volunteer firefighters, we want to give our utmost respect and admiration to the work that Mapleton Fire did at that accident scene. That is something that no amount of training can ever train you and prepare you for that kind of a thing. And Chief Harrow last night at our all stations officer meeting acknowledged that they are receiving all the mental help that they can. So if you see a Mapleton firefighter, just keep that in mind, that they're maybe struggling a little bit right now too. So if they need anything, we're here to help them. And we'll just drag that on a little bit more. Maybe as a result of this, or maybe it was planned, but the OPP have started a new program this week called Stop, Look, and Live. And if we can't help this family through funding, we can at least do this by cleaning up our driving habits and stop at intersections, and for goodness sakes, look and make sure that nothing's in the way. So please slow down and drive with care is the message there. And that's it. Thank you.
So, Paul, we got a problem. Your mic wasn't working. You have to start again.
Oh, sugar shot.
Deputy Mayor Anderson.
Well, I don't have a list like that, I can tell you that. But my heart goes out to that family in Mapleton and to the providers of care. I can't imagine coming across the scene of an accident like that and the impact it would have on everybody involved. It's just a real tragedy. And like I say, whatever we can do to get people to slow down on the roads and for heaven's sakes, look at the stop signs and obey them, not just go blowing through them. Anyway, we had our garden festival last weekend in conjunction with the farmer's breakfast. We sort of share the spot. It was a windy day, not terribly sunny, but we had a good turnout, less numbers than we usually have, but we were pleased with the efforts, and a huge thanks to all the volunteers. And we think, we haven't had our meeting, it's tomorrow night, but we think we raised in the neighborhood of $3,500 to $4,000 that will go towards our community gardens and the flower beds that we plant and beautifying the downtowns for our town. There were some kids' activities there that were really well attended. The kids seemed to enjoy that. We're trying to work to get more kids involved in this. Like all groups, we're trying to look to the future and do some succession planning and keeping these things going, because we feel it's a good thing for the town to have a hort society. They are falling by the wayside like many, but they do important projects like pollination and the fight against the invasive plant species, and it all helps to keep our agricultural area healthy and thriving. And I think that's all I have. You've covered all the other events that are upcoming, so I think I'm good. Thank you.
Yeah, Paul, thank you for that
Mhm.
little discussion
well
in
done.
reference to the issues down in Mapleton. And I know our hearts go out to all the first responders, not just the fire service, the police, the paramedics, everybody. Absolutely amazing, but we just wish all the best to our friends down in Mapleton. Just wanted to say that we do have a lot of construction in the town of Minto and other municipalities. We happened to drive from Harrison to PEI last week, and it's not just us. It's not just Ontario. It's everybody. There's pylons everywhere. There's construction people. It's definitely against a lot of speed or not obey the signs in construction zones. And it is construction season. It's definitely summer. I think summer starts Friday. But it's construction season, so I agree with everything that's been said. Please slow down, put your phones away, because I think that's one of the biggest issues. Texting and while you're driving, you're speeding up and slowing down, you're a menace to the road. So please slow down. To the Pride volunteers, just have to throw that out there. I know that it was a great event, heard good things about it, and I know that there was a lot of locals that were volunteering. Looking at you, Dave. Other than that, things are good. So we're going to return to regular council. I have a resolution moved by Deputy Mayor Anderson, seconded by Councillor Potnovitz, that the Committee of the Whole convenes into regular council. All in favor of the motion? Carried, thank you. Moved by Councillor Zimmerman, seconded by Councillor Dirksen. The Council of the Town of Minto ratifies the motions made in Committee of the Whole. All in favor of that motion? It's carried, thank you. Some bylaws, moved by Councillor Gunson, seconded by Councillor Zimmerman, that bylaw 2026-023 be read a third time and passed in open council, sealed with the seal of the corporation. All in favor of that motion? That's carried, thank you. Moved by Councillor Potnovitz, seconded by Councillor Elliott, that bylaws 2026-032 be read a first, second, and third time, passed in open council, sealed the seal of the corporation. All in favor of the motion? It's carried, thank you. Confirmatory, moved by Councillor Dirksen, seconded by Councillor Gunson, that bylaw 2026-033 to confirm actions of the council of the corporation of Town of Minto respecting a meeting held June 16th, 2026, be read a third time and passed in open council and sealed the seal of the corporation.
Can we just change that to
We
be
sure
read
can.
a first, second, third time?
Okay. I've got a motion moved by Councillor Dirksen, seconded by Councillor Gunson, that bylaw 2026-033 to confirm actions of the council of the corporation of the Town of Minto respecting a meeting held June 16th, 2026 be read a first, second, and third time, passed in open council, sealed to seal the corporation. All in favor of the motion? That's carried. Thank you. Adjournment. Moved by Councillor Zimmerman, second by Deputy Mayor Anderson, that the Council of the Town of Minto adjourns to meet again at the call of the mayor. All in favor of the motion? Thank you very much for a long meeting, but we've accomplished a lot.